Now that we have Android 16, I thought it was a good idea to compare to OneUI 7, iOS 18, ColorOS 15, OriginOS 5, and HyperOS 2. The OnePlus 13 comes with ColorOS, or as we know it globally, OxygenOS. The lock screen looks like this, and the fingerprint scanner has dashed lines and is in the middle. The iPhone 16 Pro Max comes with iOS 18, and I'm currently on iOS 18.4. There is no fingerprint scanner on the lock screen. Therefore, when you are playing music, the whole screen is used to interact with it. You can swipe up to access your notifications. Of course, the phone unlocks with Face ID. The Samsung Galaxy S25 comes with OneUI 7. There is a Now bar at the bottom of the lock screen that changes shapes based on what you are doing. For example, if you are playing music, it will show the track you are playing. The fingerprint icon looks like an actual fingerprint, and when you unlock your phone, there is a water animation. The Vivo X200 Pro comes with OriginOS 5, which is also known globally as PhoneTouch OS. The lock screen is rather simple, with the fingerprint scanner looking like a globe. The Xiaomi 15 comes with HyperOS 2, which is a rebranded operating system for Xiaomi phones. The fingerprint scanner is a hollow circle. I updated the Pixel 8 to the latest beta version of Android, which is currently beta 4. There aren't many visual changes compared to Android 15. The fingerprint scanner icon looks like a fingerprint, and the Google Pixel still feels like home for Android users compared to other skins that gradually look more and more like iOS. On the home screen, you can hold an icon and move it freely anywhere on the screen. This is something iOS did not support previously, but in iOS 18, this is now doable, even though it is not working as smoothly or freely as other Android versions. All phones show a grid of apps for quick access at the bottom of the home screen, and for iOS and OriginOS, they also have a transparent background. All phones of course have widgets and support them. You can hold the home screen and go to widgets to add one. In iOS, you have to click on edit first. I'm not implying that Android phones are copying the iPhone, since iOS didn't even support widgets for a long time, but at least in terms of look and feel, now almost all Android skin widgets look identical to how the iOS ones look, except for Pixel, which has its own style and is sticking with it. If you want to search and find an app, ColorOS has a suspiciously similar search button to iOS at the bottom of the screen. You can click on it and search for the app you want. Of course, in iOS you can also do the same, and that's how you traditionally find an app since there is no app drawer. For other Android skins, you first go to the app drawer, and there you can search for the app you are looking for. In OneUI and HyperOS, the search bar is at the bottom, while in OriginOS and Android 16, it is at the top. The notification bar is another thing that looks different across them. ColorOS and OriginOS notifications looks very similar to each other. Also, to me, it kind of feels like Xiaomi is copying Galaxy here. And in general, Xiaomi is an interesting mixture of Android, iOS, and OneUI. Stock Android still has its own version of things, which looks very different, especially since the notification bar and quick settings are not separated. In all the other operating systems except Android 16 on Pixel phones, you can access the quick settings by dragging from the right side. On Google Pixel, you have to drag down twice from anywhere to access the full list of quick settings. Again, I'm not starting a fight, but I'm just saying that ColorOS, OriginOS, and HyperOS all look very similar to iOS, especially with that blurry transparent background and the shape of the icons. They are not even trying to hide it. Galaxy One UI 7 also looks very different from Pixel's Android 16, but it still has its own style to an extent. Playing music is another thing that looks different on each phone. When you minimize an app like YouTube Music or Spotify on ColorOS, iOS, and OriginOS, you will see a dynamic island. Again, they are not even pretending. On One UI 7, if you want to access the music, you have to go to the quick settings. In HyperOS, you can access your music either in the notification or the quick settings. And on Android 16, you can see the music playing by dragging down to access the integrated notification and quick settings bar. For charging animations, OnePlus and ColorOS have a super cool animations when you attach the charger. And if you're using a super VOOC charger like I'm using here, it will also show that. The animation on iOS is very simple. It just shows that your phone started charging and displays the percentage. One UI 7 now shows the battery status at the bottom of lock screen, and it also tells you how much longer it will take to fully charge the phone. Vivo and OriginOS have a colorful animation that shows you are charging and also indicates if you're using a fast charger, as I am here. HyperOS shows a water drop animation and also indicates that you're using a quick charger with a text label. Android 16 also has a simple animation that shows the phone has started charging and displays how long it will take to fully charge. If you wonder what's the name of the power bank I'm using, it is called Pouch, which is from the sponsor of today's video, Charge. The power bank is 10,000 mAh and is co-created by the OnePlus community. It supports both 55 watts Super WOOC fast charging and PD 40 watts fast charging. It has 3 USB-C ports and the socket is compatible globally, which makes it amazing if you travel often. It has global compatibility for US, EU, India, UK, and Australia. It is designed for OnePlus devices and co-created by the OnePlus community, but of course, you can use it with any other device as I showed you. The design of this product is just amazing. It is super sleek and stylish, like every product I have from Charge. Charge is one of those companies I personally vouch for. I've been using both their wireless and non-wireless power banks for ages, charging my laptop, camera, and phones whenever I'm traveling. These things sell like hotcakes, so get yours while they last. I'll put the link in the description, and thanks to Charge for creating these cool products and supporting the channel. Moving to the recent apps, all phones go to recent apps by swiping from the bottom of the screen to the right side. The only exception is HyperOS, where you have to swipe up, but I often forget this since my brain is wired with the other gestures. ColorOS and Android 16 are visually similar. The difference is that you also see the icons of recent apps on ColorOS. iOS 18 and OneUI 7 are also very similar, with the difference that you can close all applications in OneUI 7, but in iOS, you have to close them one by one. In OriginOS, you can change the style of the recent apps by clicking on the icon to the left of the close button. Xiaomi's recent apps looks different from all the other phones. They are shown in a grid system, and you have to swipe down to see them. Android does support a split screen, meaning you can run two apps next to each other. Therefore, on this table, all the phones except for the iPhone supports a split screen, which is a neat feature. For example, sometimes I'm chatting with someone on WhatsApp and at the same time, I want to see my notes. And this feature helps a lot with multitasking since phones are getting larger. When it comes to animations, for example, opening animations, they are very similar and it is not like previous years when you would see drastically different animations on each operating system. For example, if you open an app, it will gradually enlarge from the icon to the whole screen. And of course, you can change the speed of the animation, at least on Android phones. The same goes for minimizing applications. You can use the swipe up gesture to go to the home screen and the app will minimize back to the icon. All of them look relatively similar. For gesture navigation on all Android phones, you can swipe from the left or right on any application, and that's the universal back gesture that overrides any other gesture. There is no such universal back gesture on iOS, which is sometimes frustrating since you have to know how the back gesture works in each app and on each screen. For example, in YouTube, you have to swipe down and then close the video, while on YouTube Shorts, you have to swipe back. All of these phones have some sort of AI features and their own implementation of it. The feature they all have is Magic Eraser, which, if I'm not wrong, was introduced by Google for the first time in the Pixel 6 series. I did use this feature to remove a few human beings from the background of this picture, and here I would say ColorOS on OnePlus and OriginOS did the best job. iOS 18 definitely did the worst here, and I even wonder if they are using some random algorithm for this or an actual generative AI model. I suspect it is the former. OneUI, HyperOS, and Google Photos on Android 16 did remove the background, but they also added random subjects to the background, which defeats the point. Each of these phones has some unique features. For ColorOS, the feature I like is the file dock. When you take a screenshot, you can drag it to the top right corner and it will save in that space. Later, you can paste it into any other app or device. On iOS, my favorite feature is AirDrop. For example, After I take photos and videos, I can quickly share them with my Mac Studio in seconds. I can also do the same with my friends. I know Android phones also have similar sharing features, but in my experience, none of them work as smoothly as AirDrop. For OneUI, there are two features I'm very fond of. One of them is Dex. I still don't have a laptop, and I use Dex whenever I travel to turn my phone into a laptop. I also like the new AI features on OneUI 7. My favorite is the one where you can select any text on the screen, it will translate it if it is in a foreign language, or you can simply copy it. For OriginOS, my favorite part is the mood cube. There are a bunch of customizations, and the fun thing is that they are all at your fingertips instead of hidden in some menu. For HyperOS, what I like is the ecosystem. I have some cheap Xiaomi watches and also some accessories like a scale from Xiaomi, and they all connect well to the phone. The cool thing I like on Pixel is the simplicity of it. There is a minimal amount of bloatware on the device, and the operating system is super smooth. Also, you always get the latest beta versions of Android, which is great for Android programmers like myself. Most of the time, we simply download an app instead of using the default apps, except for the camera app. The OnePlus ColorOS camera app is not the most detailed in the Android realm, but it has a pro mode. One cool thing about it is that they combine the video and cinematic video modes, which makes a lot of sense. iOS has the least amount of features in the camera app, and if you want more, you have to use Blackmagic or other similar apps. That said, I really do enjoy their filter system, which is very detailed. Galaxy probably has the most comprehensive set of features among the phones, and it is one of the reasons I keep using it. For example, in OneUI 7, not only did they add log, but also false colors and zebras for Pro Video mode. For comparison, not even mid-range Sony and Canon cameras have false colors in their firmware. The Vivo camera app is also rich and full of features. The mode that's missing from every other phone and is unique to Vivo is the street photography mode, where you can define your presets and it is super fun to use. The Xiaomi and HyperOS camera app is very similar to Galaxy One UI, but the unique thing about it is the Leica colors, where you can switch between Leica Authentic and Leica Neutral. And finally, the Google Pixel camera app is the most different from the others. For example, to change between photo and video mode, you have to use a toggle. It also has a few modes that are lacking on other phones, including long exposure mode and action pan. If you want to see a comparison of the photos and videos from these phones, you can watch the camera comparison video I made recently after the operating system updates. Thanks for tuning into Techmo, and I will see you in the next one.